Is Shrouded Fable about to explode? Having just gone out of stock on the Pokemon Center website, it is set up for something we see over and over again. And in fact, this is one of my favorite phenomenons in the Pokemon market. I'm talking about abundance blindness. And in today's video, I'm going to go into exactly what abundance blindness is, talk about some past examples, and explain what might happen to our newly out of stock Shrouded Fable. By the end of this video, you're going to know exactly what to look for and how to spot abundance blindness so you can get the most from your hard-earned collecting dollars. Let's get into it. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the TCG Buyers Club. My name's Gray, I buy cardboard, and I make collecting and investing in Pokemon simple. Shrouded Fable was not popular at release. And admittedly, it's a bit of an odd special set. Relatively small in size, it lacked any distinct chase cards that collectors were clamoring for. The set featured Pekarunt and the Loyal 3, and I'll admit, I didn't play Scarlet and Violet far enough to discover these Pokemon, and I have no idea what role they actually played. And I don't think I'm alone. A lot of the collecting community just didn't connect to these Pokemon or the cards. On top of that, Pokemon did something I really like with this set. They hired one illustrator to do all the special illustration rare variants of these 4 cards, giving them a consistent theme and style. The problem was just that people didn't love it. The end result is that these cards simply weren't chased all that much. And it meant that Shrouded Fable ended up being the last set to finally sell out of Pokemon Center exclusive Elite Trainer boxes on the Pokemon Center website. And what happens next is the abundance blindness pattern. See, abundance blindness is one of my absolute favorite market phenomenons in Pokemon. We see it happen all the time with amazing sets that are simply underappreciated for one specific reason. They're just too widely available. And of course, with that means they're also cheap. We tend to see this phenomenon when the market is boring and product is just sitting on shelves. We also see it after significant reprints which flood the market with product. And I call it abundance blindness because there's so much of the product out there, it's so easy to get your hands on that the average collector stops caring about it. We all know the saying that people want what they can't have, but the opposite is also true. People don't want what they can have. And that's the key to understanding abundance blindness. Now, in the case of Shrouded Fable, we did have a form of abundance blindness. It was the most immediately available product when you went into big box retailers or when you looked on the Pokemon Center website. While newer, more popular sets like Surging Sparks and more recently Prismatic Evolutions were selling out immediately, for the last couple months, you could always buy Shrouded Fable ETBs. And so by comparison, that availability makes it seem worse than it actually is. And here's the thing about abundance blindness. The moment that availability changes and the product becomes suddenly harder to get, the prices often start to rise. It triggers a sense of FOMO where anyone who had been thinking about buying the product but put it off because they figured they could always buy it tomorrow could panic and cause them to buy and drive that price up. And in fact, with Shrouded Fable, we are starting to see those upward movements. If we look at the Pokemon Center Elite Trainer box prices, we see a small increase in that price. Although noticeably, it's not a huge spike, at least not yet. Perhaps more importantly, we've started to see some significant price moves in popular cards from the set for collectors. Because a lot of the most expensive cards in this set are not coveted by collectors, they're being bought by players who want to bling out their decks. There's actually some really excellent playable cards that are widely used in top decks from this set. But new top chase cards like the Persian illustration rare or the Houndour illustration rare, those aren't seeing a lot of play. Those price moves are driven by collectors who are suddenly motivated to buy these cards. Maybe because that abundance blindness is going away. And I've said this effect happens all the time in Pokemon. Perhaps my all-time favorite example is none other than XY Evolutions, the set that got me back into Pokemon in 2020. XY Evolutions was famously printed to oblivion with an enormous supply that simply wasn't consumed by the market. Booster boxes and all kinds of sealed product sat on shelves for years after its initial release in 2016. And along the way, the existing collector base just grew bored of the set. It was the always available cheap set that everyone in the hobby had had too much of. Abundance blindness. Now, I'll admit, I wasn't collecting at the time Evolutions was super cheap. When I bought my booster boxes, they'd already risen to about $500 a booster box. But I know there were some smart investors at the time who saw these cheap boxes and saw their potential. They saw through the abundance blindness. Because XY Evolutions has massive nostalgic appeal. And it took until the next Pokemon boom for a flood of new investors and collectors to enter the market who suddenly wanted to open Evolutions, and the price flew up from there. But more recently, we've seen this with sets like Crown Zenith. Crown Zenith just included a number of incredible hits. And what's more is that you actually pulled them quite a bit. It has become famous for its generous hit rates, something which at the time was seen as a bit of a negative because there wasn't any one card that was particularly valuable. But people were still opening it a lot because it was a ton of fun, and so Pokemon Company printed a ton of it. And eventually the prices for Crown Zenith got quite cheap. The ETBs were pretty widely available below MSRP for quite some time. But eventually they sold out of the Pokemon Center and the price started creeping up everywhere else. And today we've seen a huge surge in price on this product. So the question is this surge in price going to happen for Shrouded Fable? And I say yes and no. See, Shrouded Fable going out of stock on the Pokemon Center website is a great indicator and a great potential trigger for the price to rise. We've already seen this starting to happen, and I suspect we'll continue to see those prices creep up a little bit. And now that it's out of stock and a little less available, we are seeing more and more commentary about the quality of the great hits. The cards like the Persian are being talked about a lot more right now than they have been in months. This kind of commentary and attention, driven by the newer, lower supply of this product, does help the price. On top of that, it's unclear if Shrouded Fable should be expected to get any reprints. Because Shrouded Fable sat for a relatively long time, certainly compared to the other modern Scarlet and Violet era sets, it just seems unlikely it'll catch a big reprint wave. And if that's true, it might actually hold up pretty well. Where Abundance Blindness is most interesting is when we're looking at sets that most people agree were awesome sets. Sets like Crown Zenith really stand out. There's beautiful cards, a lot of people enjoyed opening it. When it was widely available and cheap, well, that was the time to be recognizing that when this set becomes less available, it's likely to benefit enormously. Because it's just a great set. I don't see that for Shrouded Fable. And it's not because I think it's a bad set. I think Shrouded Fable is solid. I'd say in general, I think all the Scarlet and Violet era sets have been exceptional. They've really raised the bar for what we should expect from Pokemon cards going forward. But even if the price was lower because of Abundance Blindness, I don't think it's going to slingshot up dramatically anytime soon. But look, only time will tell. Because as I mentioned, if the reprints never come, that can really change the supply versus demand dynamic for this product over the coming years. We do have sets like Rebel Clash from Sword and Shield, which is universally considered a bad set that holds at least a decent amount of value in the sealed product just because it was never reprinted, even though the demand for Pokemon increased significantly since its release. And I think Shrouded Fable holds up a lot better than that set. But really, Shrouded Fable selling out was just an opportunity for me to talk about Abundance Blindness. I love the kinds of repeating human psychology-driven market phenomena that we see in Pokemon. And to me, Abundance Blindness is just one of the best. And what I hope by talking about it is that it makes just a couple of you who've made it this far in the video to become a little bit more aware of it. Because right now, there's not a lot of abundance in Pokemon. I know I'm not having a great time with these new sets that I can't buy, and I know a lot of people feel the same. But history shows us that eventually that will change. Pokemon will reprint product, and they've always done so in enough volume that the prices have tanked for the kinds of sets that are currently extremely expensive. And what's remarkable when that happens is how consistently the majority of the collector base begin to think that these reprinted sets are suddenly trash. Like we were all fooled when they were selling out and we thought they were incredible. That is the abundance blindness. And when that happens, I hope that those of you still watching will start to recognize that while everyone else is losing interest in the hobby, you're seeing the opportunity. So if you liked this video, give me a thumbs up, subscribe, and leave a comment below. Just say, I love abundance blindness. I'll know that you made it this far. And of course, check out my newsletter. I write it every week and send it to a growing list of subscribers who get my latest thinking on the Pokemon market. It's totally free to sign up. You can unsubscribe at any time, and it's the best way to support me and my content. YouTube has a recommendation for you. Check it out. If you love this video, I'm sure you'll love it too. And as always, thank you so much for tuning in to the TCG Buyers Club. My name's Gray, I buy cardboard, and I'll see you in the next video.